India and Africa started interacting in the 10th century under the Indian Ocean Circuit of Trade. And there was a lot of trading that was going on at that time. So that is a very common starting point for both Africa and India. There's also the common historical struggles of imperialism, colonization, decolonization, and the struggles of Western domination, which have been experienced by both countries. Moving forward, India has a foreign policy that I can say resonates well with the African Union Agenda 2063, because the African Union is keen on working with other counterparts in a manner that is mutually beneficial and in a manner that benefits the transformation of African countries and integration. So the starting point with India is a very good one, in the sense that if you are talking about issues of innovations, technology transfer, these are issues that actually promote integration even within the African continent. So that is a very good starting point. Unfortunately, even as you're saying we have good starting points, and we've also been betrayed things before we go to the challenges, there's also been a lot of trade between investments, trade and investments between Kenya and Africa and India. But if you disaggregate the trade, you find that, and investments, it's largely Mauritius, that you find there are a lot of FDI, I can call it FDI stock, between Africa and India. Just to give you figures, which are also not easy to come by, and these are areas that we need to look at when we are interacting. How do we record our statistics and data, first of all, on investment flows, investment stocks between Africa and India, so FDI stocks between Africa and India, and investment inward and outward flows between the two countries. Because the figures we have, I got them from UNCTAD, but they're quite dated. So if we look at between 2002 to 2012, the FDI stock that was there of Africa that's there in India was around 64 billion US dollars. On the reverse, between 2008 and 2012, Indian investment flows was around 41.8 billion USD. Good starting point, because there's already a relationship, but it can be made better. Now, going back to the challenges, internally talking, I cannot talk about India because I know the experts here who know India better than I do. So I will talk about Africa. We still have a lot of challenges that we still need to deal with. And the first one, as I'd mentioned in the previous session, issues of innovation and intellectual property go together. There's a major asymmetry because India seems to be much ahead of most African countries, and this is also witnessed in the WTO negotiations, where you find that India takes the lead, especially when we are trying to access things like medicine and pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical products. So that is another area that we really need to deal with. The African private sector, when we talk of formal and informal, the formal sector is quite small, but also not very well, I can say organized, but it cannot be captured easily for policy decisions. You can do this easily from surveys like the World Bank Enterprise Surveys, but the challenge is they only look at institutions or companies that have 5 employees and above. So those who have 5 or 4 and below are left out. So we are talking of micro, small, and medium enterprises. And this is where we have a large market. This is an area that is not very well organized. The African Development Bank is estimating that we have around 40% of micro, small, and medium enterprises, and basically the informal sector contributes 40% of GDP in the African economies, but this is more anecdotal as well. So we have a lot of issues to discuss on how we are moving forward, teething problems from our side. But at the same time, there are a lot of joint initiatives. There's the Africa, there have been a lot of joint forums, India-Africa Summit forums. There is also the India Trade and Investment in Africa, CETA. So these are some of the initiatives that are already trying to bring the two, call them continents and subcontinents together.